Hello, eighth grade. We are in week 5 and talking about phase changes still. This time we're talking about melting. Now, just a little heads up, our learning target for this week is to be able to identify how substances move from a solid to a liquid state. Actually, that's our learning target for today. When you look at this picture, this looks like this fiery orange-red river flowing downhill, but it isn't water. It's molten or melted rock, and it's erupting from a volcano. Now, most rocks on Earth's surface and other solid objects aren't liquid. And what we want to know is, why is this rock that erupts from a volcano in a liquid state? And how does rock change from a solid to a liquid? Okay, so we're going to address both of these questions during our talk today. The process in which rocks and other solids change to liquids is called melting. Now, melting occurs when particles of a solid absorb enough energy to partly overcome the force of attraction holding them together. So if you look at the picture of the solid on the far left-hand corner of this slide, you'll notice that they are attracted. They are very tightly packed together. And overcoming this force of attraction with enough energy causes it to change from a solid to a liquid. This allows them to move out of their fixed positions and slip over one another. Melting, like other changes of state, is a physical change in matter. Please remember that. So it doesn't change the chemical makeup or the chemical properties of the matter. Quick question. The molten rock that erupts from a volcano comes from deep underground. How is this related to its liquid state? Take a moment and think about that question. Write down a quick answer. If you need to pause the video, you can. How is this related to its liquid state? Answer is, it is always very hot deep underground where molten rock originates. The high temperatures give rock enough energy to melt and remain in a molten state. Underground, rock in this state is called magma. Now, what happens to magma after it erupts and starts to flow over the surface of the ground? What happens to magma after it erupts and starts to flow over the surface of the ground? If you want to pause the video for a moment, you can. Go ahead and answer this question. After magma erupts, it is called lava. We've got two different terms. Underground, it's magma. When it's above ground, we call it lava. On the surface, lava eventually cools and hardens to form a solid rock. So that heat energy escapes and it goes from a liquid back to a solid. We'll be talking more about that later this week. Other substances that are normally solids on Earth can be heated until they melt. You can see here, the photo shows molten gold being poured into a mold. When the gold cools, it will harden into a solid gold bar that has the same shape as the mold. Remember, liquids take the shape of their container. So if we pour liquid gold into a mold, into the shape of a gold bar, when it cools, it will be in that shape. When we're talking about melting point, the temperature at which a substance melts is called its melting point. Melting point is a physical property of matter. Now, gold, for example, has a melting point of 1064 degrees Celsius. That's 1064 degrees Celsius. That's extremely hot. This is a very high melting point, and most other metals also have high melting points. The melting point of ice, in comparison, is much lower at 0 degrees Celsius. Many substances even have lower melting points. For example, the melting point of oxygen is negative 222 degrees Celsius. So things that at room temperature are normally solid have very high melting points. Things that at room temperature are liquid have relatively low melting points. And things that are normally at room temperature gases have extremely low melting points. Now, because global climate change, temperatures all over the Earth are rising. However, the melting points of Earth's substances, including ice, are constant. The result? Glaciers are melting at an alarming rate. Melting glaciers cause rising sea levels and the risk of dangerous river flooding on land. Okay, so some examples of melting. In summary, melting occurs when particles of a solid absorb enough energy to partially overcome the force of attraction holding them together. This allows them to move out of their fixed positions and slip over one another, forming a liquid. The temperature at which a substance melts is called its melting point. And for example, the melting point of ice is 0 degrees Celsius. So let's look at our learning target one more time. Students will be able to identify how substances move from the solid to liquid state. Did we reach our learning target? If not, feel free to go back and review this video. There is also reading that goes along with it. And of course, there are activities to practice and questions to answer down below on Canvas. Please take time to do each and every one of those, and we'll talk more later. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you're having an awesome day. Please remain healthy and remain happy. Have a great day. Bye-bye.